The 13th of December 2007 started like countless other days had for Steve Sutcliffe. He was up and away from home slightly earlier than usual before the rush hour took hold, and he filled up with fuel for the 100-mile journey north on the M1. But that's when this particular Thursday took a turn for the unusual. That's because our man's destination wasn't the office or the airport. It wasn't even the golf course. It was Silverstone. There, waiting for Autocar's editor-at-large, was an empty race circuit, a team of racing professionals with a day to spare, and a car with more performance potential than anything mere mortals are normally permitted to experience. The circuit was Silverstone's 1.6-mile national loop. The team was the Honda F1 team, and the car, the RA107. The elements were doing their bit to make the day all the more interesting too, as if that was required.
Guess what the track temperature is?
None.
Shov's just said he's never ever run it with such a cold track temperature before.
The home of British motorsport was blanketed with frost, so while the rest of us huddled round gas heaters, munching bacon rolls, the mechanics got out the tyre warmers and the Silverstone marshals set about thawing the track. Few will need an introduction to this man, British F1 racing star Jenson Button. Honda's lead driver was on hand to give our man some much-needed advice. The kind of advice that only a seasoned race-winning F1 driver can give.
So you've been bricking it all night last night?
Oh God, it's such a shame it's not just a couple of degrees warmer.
Yeah. You'd still be bricking it though?
Yeah, of course.
So as the track temperature crept up, Jenson and Steve headed out for a few wary reconnaissance laps to see how the land lay.
This is Cops, one of the fastest corners we drive on around the world. It's turn 1 at Silverstone. Normally would come into here in 7th gear, probably carrying about 4.5 G through this corner, at about 170, 175 miles an hour. So it's pretty quick and it's completely blind apex. Just to get you excited about today's challenge.
Indeed.
I mean, coming through here flat.
Today. Today, what you in the car? How would you approach this corner?
But because it's a bit damp at the apex, I'd probably run a little bit wide on the entry.
Yeah.
I'd start in 5th gear, so you'd be down 2 gears into the corner.
And you would brake?
I'd probably brake gently, and I'd run a little bit wide off this damp patch, just to get a little bit of grip, and then you can sort of late apex later on. But hopefully this will be dry when you run, because you'll really get the feeling of the G-force and the grip of the car. But coming into here on your first couple of laps, I'd probably be down to 5th or 4th gear. Don't worry about hitting the brakes hard. You've got a lot of downforce in the car. You won't be locking brakes here easily, and it's a pretty hard pedal. If you can hit that pedal as hard as we can, I'll be very impressed. It should be 4th or 5th gear.
When you hit the brakes as hard as you can,
you're stamping on the pedal, yeah.
Absolutely is.
Yeah. In a high-speed corner, if you have to brake, you have full confidence in the car because you have so much downforce in it. You know, the car is weighing 5 or 6 times as much as what it actually is when it stood still. So you've got a lot of grip there. So don't worry about hitting the brakes, and it's also going to put heat into the tyres and gain you a bit of grip for later on in the lap. And this section here through turn 1 and Beckett's and Maggots is the best section on any circuit in the world. It is such a buzz.
Really?
It's where you really feel the
Even better than
G-force.
Spa?
Well, I think so, because at Spa you have a couple of good corners, but they're not connected. But whereas here, this section here is just so fast and flowing, and when you watch down at Beckett's, it's phenomenal. It really, really is. You know, the grip of a Formula 1 car.
It looks like an illusion, actually.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's the same when I watch there as well.
So come on, gents. What am I going to do from over there to over there without making a plonker of myself?
Well, first of all, I'm going to let it warm up a bit because it's a little bit chilly at the moment. Won't probably get very good tyre temperature, but when it's warm enough, you'll be coming under that bridge. You'll be coming from a 2nd gear corner up through the gears. Should be able to hit 7th just before you hit the brakes here.
What sort of speed am I going to be getting up to?
You're probably going to be about 185 or something when you hit the brakes. Hit the brakes. You've got a first apex which you don't want to touch really. You want to sort of give it a bit of a wide berth. And then where you can see the cones here, that's where you want to touch the apex.
Yeah.
It's a 2nd gear corner. It is reasonably slow, but as you pick up speed and get used to it, it'll become a 3rd gear corner, and you'll really feel the downforce working through there.
Into a bend like that, am I braking all in a straight line and then coming off the brakes and turning, or are you braking in on the way in?
Well, I think to start with, it'd probably be best to brake in a straight line. And with this car, the problems we've had with it this year are braking and turning in. I mean, we have improved the car a lot, but for a person, you know, for your first drive of the car, it would be a lot easier just to brake in a straight line, then turn in and do the work. But if I was driving around here, you'd be braking into the corner, balancing the car all the way in on the brakes and on the downshifts also. So there's a lot of sort of dancing around that you do. It's not just hitting the brakes in a straight line, turn in, exit, hit the throttle. You know, there's a lot of dancing on the throttle into the corner, and then the exit also. You don't want to run all the way out to the curb, because it just means you've got to drag the car back over to that side for this right-hander. They do change direction very quickly, but you're also going in a straight line very quickly. So you don't want to use all the curb. Come back to the middle of the circuit for this right-hander here, which is Luffield. Through here, the line isn't such an issue as long as you're sort of the middle of the woods. Yeah. It's mostly about just taking it nice and easy through here and getting a good exit, getting the car in a straight line, and then getting on the power as soon as possible. You'll be running with traction control, which will help you quite a bit. So yeah, it's about getting in a straight line and powering it, and then you're up through the gears all the way down the straight up to 7th gear before you're braking for cops.
Armed with Button's tips then, and emboldened slightly by a glimpse of sunlight, it was time for a warm-up challenge, a time trial between megastar Button and average Joe Sutcliffe. In totally road-legal Honda Civic Type Rs, this test would move Button out of his comfort zone.
How many laps can I have?
It would also demonstrate how close a typically keen driver can get to one of the most wanted men on the F1 grid. Steve went out first. After 3 flying laps, he set a fastest time of 1 minute 14.40. The line in the sand had been drawn, but surely Jensen would obliterate it. Button did 4 flying laps in the Civic, and in true last-minute qualifying style, came in with the fastest lap time of 1 minute 13.45, a time set on his last flying lap, and just under a second quicker than Sutcliffe's. The data shows that Button braked for corners slightly later than Steve, and also carried more speed into them. So it was round 1 to the professionals. Back in the pit garage, the team readied the RA107 for its first run of the day. This time it would go out in the capable hands of James Rossiter, Honda and Super Aguri F1 test driver, and a man who's won races at Silverstone in Formula 3. Rossiter would do a few installation laps in the car, verifying its setup for Steve, and generally ensuring that the circuit was warm enough to run on. The lap times he recorded would also serve as a benchmark for comparison with Steve's.
Sorry, that was first time through cops. Did he look like he was kind of taking it a bit easy?
Rossiter made driving an F1 car in the tricky conditions look easy, but Steve's concerns were lingering.
I drove the F1 car this morning and it was very cold, a little bit icy, but managed to get a good baseline and make sure the car was set up well for Steve.
I'm quite scared of this, even though I've done it before. I didn't drive it when it was icy and snowy before, and even then I spun it. See, if you look at this here, you've still got ice. And although they've put this very nice chemical which warms the circuit up, it doesn't dry it out, but it just takes the temperature up, brings the temperature up a bit. It's still very slippery, and the worst bit of all is that there's a nice bit of shadow just where that bridge is down there, opposite the race control. And the sun's just not getting to that, and that's absolutely right on the apex of Woodcote, which is normally completely flat out in one of these things, but not at the moment. Yeah. You ever driven one when it's this cold?
Yeah, I have. But the thing is, the problem is that getting the tyre temperature is so difficult. But for you, I think you're running wet anyway, so
yeah,
it should be fine.
And you think they'll still stay warm?
Because they're really soft tyre.
Good, I like to hear that.
So it'll be fine.
There are a few icy patches though.
Oh really? Oh, they'll be gone, mate. The sun's out, don't worry.
Sections of the circuit were still in shadow and likely to be slippery. They were hardly what you'd call ideal conditions for a beginner. The time had come. Steve was about to get his first proper laps in a car that both Jensen Button and Rubens Barrichello had struggled to keep on track in 2007. The pressure was on. But for the ice, Steve would have felt a bit more confident. Back in 2004, he drove a Jaguar R3 around Barcelona. He got a grand total of 7 laps that day, around a circuit he didn't know, but it was enough to prepare him for the incredible performance of these cars. But that was Spain. It was 3 years ago, and it was 20 degrees. While the mechanics and engineers got the car ready, Steve's thoughts had centred on getting out of the pits and around the circuit cleanly.
So I think they're going to push me out now. Okay, I'll switch the RS off.
RS means race start, which you have to switch off in order to get the thing off the line properly, unless you really start properly. And at this point, all I wanted to do was just not stall. Look at that crowd of people.
Okay, will do.
I think I was talking to Andrew Shove, the Jensen's race engineer, about trying to get the pit lane speed limiter off, which again, there was this orange button somewhere on the steering wheel and I didn't really know what it was supposed to do, but I knew it wouldn't go properly without me turning it off. So at this point I start to make a bit of a fool of myself.
Pit limiter is the yellow button or the orange button?
It's the orange button, you fool, and you need to turn it off in order to get it going properly. My heart was really starting to go at this point.
It stopped.
I got to a position where I didn't know what button to press or what to do in the car at all. However, I got it going again. That even sounds fast now looking at it on video. I mean, at the time, that just feels absolutely incredible. It's so quick when you put your foot down. The trouble is my visor then started to steam up, so I had to open the visor up, as you can see now. And that just allowed all this kind of forced air into the helmet as well, so my eyes then started to stream. However, that's coming back into the pit lane now, which means I didn't stall it and I didn't spin it.
Visor is a bit of a problem. It's steaming up quite a lot.
Okay, this is the second time out in the car. First time I got to drive it really properly. And I was going a bit better this time. Felt a bit more comfortable with the car, but as you can see, I was still being a complete and utter prima donna when it came to the visor.
Yeah, this visor's not good though. Trouble is, it's not steaming up. Sorry. The visor's not steaming up, but air's getting through, so I can't actually see anything. I can't see much. Because there's a gap, so the air's coming up, kind of streaming into my eyes. Blimey. Whew.
So first gear all the time.
Yeah, it's
One run later, with the visor problem sorted and with a better feel for the track conditions, Steve was beginning to come to terms with the car's controls and its performance potential. He was ready for a full-speed run. So here it is.
I've just driven a Honda Formula 1 car around Silverstone, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. I really don't think you can appreciate how fast these things are and how well they stop and how fast they will go around corners. I did 2 laps and my neck was completely knackered going through Woodcote and through Copse, so they had to put a little, what they call, pufter pad, so where I can kind of lean up against it like this, which made a big difference actually. But no, I mean, it's pretty special, very privileged experience.
You've ever done road car wise, track car wise, that even remotely compares?
Well, I drove the Jag around Barcelona, but I didn't have a clue which way the track went, and I got a quarter as many laps. So no, really, that doesn't compare to this at all, because I knew this circuit a bit, which helps a lot. But no, I've never done anything like it.
Well done, Steve. Bloody good job.
It's very impressive, and it's basically a test environment, which is a test team, it's a test car, just come back from Jerez. Yeah, very impressed.
Very difficult, really, and it's unusual that anyone would not make a mistake on the first day in an F1 car. So I think Steve's impressed everyone, really, by not putting a wheel wrong.
I think he's done an absolutely super job. I mean, he's been really very good, very impressive from lap 1, and his speed's not too far off James Rossiter, our test driver, so he's done a great job.
So, just how close did our mere mortal Steve Sutcliffe get to James Rossiter's lap time? Well, closer than you might think. Here's a breakdown of their fastest laps. Coming over the start line, both drivers are doing almost identical speeds. Rossiter's immediate advantage comes under braking for Copse. He hits the pedal about 15 metres later than Steve and carries an extra 9 miles an hour through the apex, pulling out a couple of car lengths lead. In the run down to Maggot, Steve is using every bit of the car's potential and again keeping up with James. Once more, he doesn't quite brake as late or as hard for Maggots as the Pro, although, funnily enough, their apex speeds are almost identical. In the latter stages of the lap, however, thanks in part due to a drying track and plenty of commitment, Steve was beginning to close the gap. His maximum speed before braking for Brooklands was 178 miles an hour, 2 miles an hour faster than Rossiter, and he carried more speed into the braking zone than James, even though by the time they passed the apex, Steve had lost a bit of ground. The gap between James's best time of 48.18 seconds and Steve's best of 48.58 was actually closer than that between Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso during qualifying for last year's Chinese GP. Even though Sutcliffe had a drier, grippier track to play with, it was a very impressive performance indeed.
There's one part of the track out a big braking area into a quite a slow left corner, which I think I could probably gone a bit quicker through there, because you're coming at it at a hell of a lick and there's just a big brick wall that you're facing, so it's a bit intimidating. I could have probably braked a bit earlier into there, but no, I didn't think I could make it go much quicker than that, to be quite honest.